everybody, and even that could be misinterpreted. I say hello, everybody, and it could be misinterpreted. That's the
because
subject
people hear it
of
and they
our
go,
show.
including me?
Oh, yeah,
Me too?
right? And me,
Yeah,
and why
right.
did he say hello and not hi, and why is it everybody doesn't include me? Our really today is that recipients of, say, a 2-word email or a text, such as nice job or great work, is misinterpreted as being sarcastic or snide.
Don't give the answer yet. Let them think. What do you think the number is at home? 60%
of the time.
And it started with me and producer Laurie, and she's not going to get mad if I say this, but Laurie has an angry resting face. And I've known Laurie and I love her for 25 years. We've worked together. But I was getting texts while you were away doing Broadway. And it was like, we're doing this, and I was realizing I'm taking them negatively.
Right.
So then we started joking.
Well, she intended them negatively. I
probably,
think you were picking up what she was putting down.
But we started then writing each other like, see you tomorrow, said with a bit of grace and acknowledging your that. Right. But then I said, wait a minute, we need to do an episode on this, because if they're misconstrued this often.
60% of the time.
60% of the time, and most people think when they send a text that 90% of the people receiving it receive it the way they're sending it, and it's nowhere close to that.
No,
so
not at all.
I saw that Dr. Nick Morgan, who's an expert in communication public speaking, had talked about that specifically. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to get him on to address that, because I figured if we're making errors like that, I mean, I get a text going, how is dinner? And I go, oh, you're saying I didn't invite you. People go negative, by the way,
right.
because we were initially caveman. It was a survival thing, that our default is negative. I'm going to get eaten. My parents kept that going.
That analogy made no sense. I don't want to waste the doctor's time, but that made no sense.
No, we have a negative default, and he'll talk about it, I think.
Negative default because we were cavemen?
Because of response, a fight and flight.
If you said
response.
to a caveman, nice job, he went, oh, F
he
you.
would go, yeah. What do you mean about the job? Yeah, right. And by the way, today, 1 in 5 office workers say they have been reprimanded, demoted, or even fired over misinterpreted messages. And texting is the way we're going. It's becoming more prevalent than email because it's convenient, et cetera. Right. So let's say hi to Dr. Morgan.
This man is an expert in body language and rhetoric. You coach public speaking. You are a renowned teacher and author. I think we are very fortunate to have you here. If he's hearing anything other than what I intend right now, I'm in big trouble. I'm being very flattering, aren't I? I'm being very
somewhat,
positive. Did I do it right, Dr. Morgan?
You did it beautifully. I feel
Thank you.
Warm and at home and well loved. So
thank you. That is how I like to roll.
Adjacent. So was I right about the fact that texting is now taking over our lives because it's convenient? You can also lie so easily with texting. I'll be late, and if somebody's I'm running late, I'm in traffic. Nobody's testing that. If you had to say that in person, you can get a reaction. I don't have to wait for the reaction. I can just do it and send it out. So it's preemptive. It auto-corrects. So sometimes we're not even sending texts that we've created. Where is this all going?
Well, it's all going to be misunderstood at a really startling and alarming rate. And that's the real issue. I urge people to use smiley faces and emoticons of various kinds, even if you think they're childish, because that at least reduces the negative bias that you were talking about earlier, which is profound. And just to explain, Dr. Alexander, what it's about.
Thank you, sir.
Imagine yourself as a cave person leaving the cave and walking through the savannah or the jungle or whatever, and you see a shadow out of the corner of your eye. If you're kind of California dude and you go, hey, cool, that's just a nice shadow, the next thing that happens is you get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
Sure.
If you're the anxious type, you take evasive action. We're descended from those anxious people that kept them and us alive.
I was right. That
my
the
research,
default,
by the way, tells me that the saber-toothed tiger and the Homo sapien did not coexist at the same time. According to the La Brea tar pits, where I'm told. But all right, that's fine. I understand what he's saying.
And you know what it is?
Apex,
by the way,
apex predators.
Apex predators. Of course.
And by the way, the subtext here
I
is...
am not an expert in evolutionary
I thoroughly
anything.
understand.
But what you're hearing here from my partners, the subtext here is because I proposed that and was correct and you reinforced it, he's a little bit irritated. Just a tad.
That is correct. You communicated that perfectly. That is correct.
But I've seen that in all these surveys in businesses, they feel that emoticons and stuff, emojis, are less than professional, especially over a certain age. Under a certain age, much more acceptable. Over a certain age,
and to tack on to that, there are so many of them now that, I sometimes I'll send a text and I'll try and be creative. So there's one that's like a goofy face, and I'll put that on, and then I go, well, I wonder if that can be misinterpreted, that that doesn't say
Probably.
something specifically enough. So
Yeah, you probably get misunderstood, or it probably means something already.
Yeah.
Thanks to the teenagers, some of whom may be watching, they've already appropriated it and used it for something else. I like to use the laughter face with the two tears coming down out of the eyes, and my teenage son, tells me that's I can't do that anymore. It doesn't mean. He won't tell me what it means, but he says it doesn't mean what I think it
oh
means.
my God.
He won't tell you what it means?
No, he won't. He says I'm hopeless. I'm too old to
Very nice,
understand.
sweet. So you got a good relationship. Good with son. So
my
kind of like doesn't that feel like at home? Even the expert, son says go pound sand.
But that's just to sort of drill into that a little bit, because I have the same situation with my grown sons. I have a 31 and 27-year-old son, and Peter has grown children too. It's hard. It's just hard. It feels like they call this in some ways the age of communication. I find that communication in general is getting harder and harder and harder. I have a group of friends, Peter is one of them, with whom I have substantive conversations, and we know each other's hearts well enough that we can be irreverent, and everybody understands it's trying to amuse each other, it's trying to be in fun. There's never any harm intended from it. But I find that the circle of people with which I can have real communication gets smaller and smaller and smaller, because there's so much open to interpretation that is unintended.
Yeah, people take offense, and the reason is that what we care about is each other's intent, and intent comes through most strongly face to face. We have the five senses, and we get nice facial expressions and a smile and a nod, and when we move closer to people, we warm up the relationship. You can't do any of that on a text,
right.
And so the potential for it being negatively interpreted is vast. And on top of that, you reference that we're sending more and more texts. We're getting drowned in more and more information. We have to move faster and faster. So we're sending them more quickly, hence the typos you referenced earlier, and we're reading them more quickly, and thereby opening ourselves to misinterpretation. So it's a never-ending doom loop, basically, of communications.
And by the way,
in spite of the fact that we're surrounded by all these tools and all these wonderful ways to communicate.
Part of this that I think comes through, that Laurie and I were joking about, that got us into the episode, was it also diminishes the person who's receiving it. You write something heartfelt and somebody sends you back liked. They hit one button to say, you couldn't even get your thumbs going to say, hey, I really appreciate you. I mean, it's diminishing. And I think that doesn't this all chip away at communication? And again, I don't want to be the guy who says the next generation, without face-to-face confrontation, without face-to-face contact, is missing out on something that's really important to getting things right. So if the errors are that prevalent, how is that impacting society? What are we getting wrong societally that's chipping away at our communication?
Well, I think the evidence is all around us. I mean, especially during the pandemic, incidents of mental health issues went up and up and up, and drug abuse and alcohol abuse and so on. I mean, we became more depressed, more alienated, more isolated, lonelier as a society. And the face-to-face interaction is one way to help that get a little bit better.
There seems to be, even in face-to-face communication, there seems to be so many more, for lack of a better word, landmines, unintended mishaps or insults, or this whole canceling phenomena. Sometimes somebody espouses something which is really reprehensible, and they pay a social price for it. But sometimes it's truly unintended, or they're discussing something that has, it's more than just a cut and dry thing. It's a discussion to be had, and we are so quick to judge people and punish people in the act of trying to communicate, even face to face. I mean, you spend a lot of time teaching people to communicate more effectively, but I don't even know what question I'm asking. It just seems like it's becoming harder and harder and harder to express yourself fully and genuinely without being misinterpreted or without somehow offending someone unintentionally? How do you agree? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Well, I think that's well, first of all, it's an interesting question, and second, I think it's sort of a combination of trends that are ultimately healthy for society and trends which are not healthy. And a lot of the issues that we're talking about have no question been made worse by the digital world we're living in. No question. We're also becoming more open. I mean, when I started in the public speaking business, somebody was going to get up and speak. They would never share any of their individual history, their personal history. They would talk about some business issue or some academic issue. Nowadays, it's odd if you don't share something of your personal journey. We want to know what do you have at stake here? What's in it for you? And so I think on the whole, that's a healthy trend, but it also means that a lot more personal, prickly, potentially embarrassing, vulnerable stories out there, and we do get cross if you step on those stories or make us feel bad about them. So I think all of our sensibilities and sense of vulnerability have increased.
Not to mention that people then jump in, weigh in on a piece of audio or something that's been taken out of context, and projecting onto that why they're angry or who they think you are, which is also a big thing. I project onto text my stuff onto the person sending it. So all of a sudden, that person takes on whatever personality I'm projecting. In what you teach is the art of storytelling is the big, I mean, reading your work, it's all about storytelling. Is the art of storytelling when people, like Jason tells me something, we're from the storytelling background. Is that diminished now? Is that virtually gone?
Not at all. In fact, it's more important than ever. The only way to get people's attention and hold it is through good storytelling. And one of the questions I get over and over again in my classes on public speaking is, people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. What do I do about that? And I say, yeah, that's so true. And I'm going to go home this weekend and binge watch Game of Thrones. It's our attention spans for great storytelling haven't diminished at all. Our attention spans for the huge amount of information that people are shoveling to each other is low and getting lower because, again, we have to perform triage on all the information we do get just to try desperately to keep up.
Oh, that's so.
You also did you have the podcast, by the way, the One Question podcast, which I love. He has one question. So you can't ask, like, do you want coffee? You comfortable? Right. It's over at that point. Right. You hang up. So it's got to be the one question.
How are you? Oh, wait.
So what's funny for a communicator was your point. I want to be so good that I can do a podcast that illuminates and elucidates a topic with just one question. It's such a good question that it's a big net and a big umbrella that the person will answer then a myriad of things under that umbrella. Was that the purpose?
I don't think it was that brilliant. I think I was trying to stay connected to people during the podcast, during the pandemic with the podcast. So that was really my impetus. I'm an extrovert. I've got a wide network of people out there. I wasn't seeing any of them, and I was starting to go stir crazy. So I just started connecting. I thought, I'll make it easy. I don't want to make anybody work too hard during the pandemic because they're all lying down on their sofas with their hot washcloths on their heads. So they're just chilling, and I don't want to disturb them. So we'll just ask them one easy question.
And is it generally? Can you give an example or two of like what one question would be?
Yeah, sure. What are you excited about? That was an easy one. We did that for a while.
We're idiots. We're working. We should have done the one question, half a question.
Actually, if we were smart, we would have done ask us a question. Why don't we have to come up with a question?
One question. That's really lazy. You come up with it. Call it. Laurie, I think we got the new
sit
podcast.
Around with you all week to go. Really we need a good question.
We sit down here and we take one question, and it's an episode.
I do a whole touring show where people just ask me questions.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I didn't have to prepare anything.
I'm kidding. The first question is, how do you do a touring show with people asking you questions? So how have we changed after COVID? How much has society changed? I know that Zoom, we probably wouldn't be able to do this, and I'm not sure of the year when this happened, but it used to be guests were in person and stuff. Now it's acceptable.
Zoom became a thing during the pandemic. I mean, I think it existed before the pandemic, but it really has it changed in any profound way the way we communicate, the way we do this?
Has
video conferencing? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. When I was working on a book on virtual communications in 2017, I would ask people in the Fortune 1000 company, um, how much video conferencing do you do? How widespread is it in your organization? And it turned out, on average, it was 5% of the organization used video conferencing. In 2020, I happened to call back one of the CEOs I had interviewed in 2017. And I said, "How you doing?" And he said, "Yeah, it took us 3 days. The entire company's using it." So it was a huge sea change because we had to keep working somehow.
And
Now we're hybrid and we can do it either way. And
right.
it's actually, we don't think of it this way because we had to live through a pandemic to get here, but it's actually broadened our communications palette in a really beautiful way. We can connect, the three of us can connect, whereas before it would have involved travel on at least one of our parts,
Right.
and jet lag and uncomfortable nights in hotels and bad food and whatever else.
Wow, you really don't
But
like
at
to
least,
travel.
but anecdotally, it's also created a situation. Again, one of my big things is I always prefer real human contact rather than technology. But I anecdotally know more people who are really upset when the mandate is let's get back to the office. They much prefer this. They don't want to get back to the office. Is that, I'm not sure if this is your area, but is that does this totally compensate, or are we missing out on something by not gathering at our workplaces and having real contact in that way?
Well, I'm smiling because I worked with a number of companies, with the executives in the companies, to figure out how to communicate with their employees during the pandemic, and when the pandemic started easing, set up these task forces and committees to just study what would be the ideal amount of time in office versus on Zoom or on video conferencing. And one company I remember in particular, because this happened pretty recently, studied the problem for 6 months. They had a vast team of employees at all levels of the organization to figure this out. And they came up triumphantly with the idea that 3 days a month was the perfect amount. So everybody's happy
in office, to be
in the office. The rest of the time you can work on Zoom. And this was because of productivity and savings in terms of how much office space you needed and travel and so on and so forth. The policy had been in place for 3 weeks when the executive team announced, okay, it's 3 days a week, not 3 days a month. And they threw out all the research and just changed it in the moment. Why? Because executives don't feel like they can do what they're hired to do, which is manage people effectively on Zoom. And the truth is you can't. Managing is still pretty much a face-to-face thing because of all the nuances of human emotion and interaction that we talked a little bit about earlier. So they can't do it, but it's very hard on the employees who feel like, wait a minute, I have to go back to commuting. I have to go back to putting on long pants and a dress shirt. I have to
long pants. How about just pants? Period. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yes, please.
Now, Zoom and study and looking.
I can't take my dog for a walk. All the things that I got used to doing. Hang out with my kids for an hour during the middle of the day when they come home from school. Those kind of things really made for a nice quality of life. And by the way, most of those employees were more productive, but it didn't work for the management. And guess who runs companies?
So in looking up Zoom and trying to prep for this interview, the research showed that eye contact is important and people don't make eye contact as much on Zoom. And they're spending a lot of time looking at themselves. When you think about it, you're looking at yourself, you're looking at the guy on the screen, but you're not connecting. And the big thing for me, Jason and I do a live show, Q&A show. During the pandemic, I did a lot of those kind of shows. They brought me in to do like Jim Gaffigan and Dana Carvey for an audience that I didn't see. And the weird thing is, I don't feel, even though I spent time with those people and researched and really hung out and asked some questions, I feel like no connection to them. Like if I saw them on the street, if there's no real, oh wow, I feel like I know you. It's at arm's length, which is a very, with people and then I saw also with interviews, especially first interview for a job, much more negative if the interview is done on Zoom than it's done in person because they can't get all of the rest of the stuff. So again, are they trying to, is there a way to make Zoom better from a communication standpoint that you see?
The real reason that you have those experiences, the real reason Zoom or any video communication isn't really great yet is something that they don't teach you about in school. It's called proprioception. It's your sixth sense. And it's the sense that you use unconsciously to keep track of where you are in space so you don't bump into things and where the people around you are in space. And that's very important to us. We care very much whether you're moving closer to me or away from me. We care if you're within a few feet of me, so you're in my personal space versus more distant. So you're tracking that all the time. And in fact, you track that with your partner if you have one, so that you don't roll over and punch your partner in the head at night while you're asleep. You're doing this 24/7. It's a really important sense, and they don't tell you about it in school. So what happens on Zoom is you two look to me like you're about an arm's length away. So that would say you're in my personal space and I need to pay close attention. But you're the wrong size for that. You're way too tiny to be that close. So my proprioception sense goes, where the heck are these people? And it causes me stress, but I can't work out where you are. And so after a while, I start to tune out and I say, these people aren't real. I don't know where they are. They're not really in my personal space. So I can't interact with them in the way that I would if they were as close as my screen was. So yeah, that's the real issue, is proprioception.
I actually worked with an improvisation company that was on a Zoom sort of beta test. It was not Zoom, it was something else, where they could move forward and back in the screen. They could sort of keep a distance, so it looked like they were, further away, or if they wanted to emphasize something or take the stage, because it was a way to do improvisation on a screen, they could move forward and move down stage. It was very strange. It was really, really strange, I have to say.
Appropriation, you did it on Seinfeld, Close Talker.
Well, the Close Talker.
That's
sure.
Close Talker is the thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I read, and I just remembered it now, is that the person on Zoom is using what they call anchorman energy. In other words, you're sitting differently than you would when you're just hanging out. You're projecting differently, and there's a fatigue to that everybody on there is projecting anchorman. And whereas if I'm sitting with you, I'm at lunch, I'm kind of doing whatever. Here, I have to sit up. I have to be paying attention.
Let me tell you something. You come to take a meeting with me, and you sit back in your chair with the spread legs like that. You're out of here, buddy. I'm not taking that kind of attitude from you. The man is an expert. The doctor is an expert in body language. What do you think you're saying to me when you sit back like that, legs akimbo, with your attitude, with your little attitude? I'm picking it up. Right? Am I right, Donna? You got it. You caught it. I'm sure. The man's an expert.
So this is the first time?
Your insouciance, your lack of regard or respect, your sort of, I don't even need to be here. I got it all.
So all these years we had a proprioception problem.
Oh yeah,
and we didn't. And you never told me. You never.
Well,
told me
I didn't have a word
all
for
right.
it.
Well, guess what? I'm here for you now. All right. How do you like that? I'm here, totally present, 100%. Tell me what you got to tell
it's
me.
Better.
How's
it's
it better?
You know why it's better? You're off mic.
You got a mole. It looks like it needs some attention. Yeah, Laurie's yelling. You're off mic. You're mic. I was making a point.
He was making a point.
I was making a point.
But
I should have told you about the ultimate space, which is the intimate space. That's 18 inches to 0, and that's a powerful taboo. Only your intimates can violate that.
You're not kidding.
18 inches to 0. Yeah. It's my new book.
My personal space may be a little bit wider.
My new book is 18 inches to 0. I got to remember that.
Doc, so you talked about, I know one of the things we started this conversation with was texting and how to make texting more clear and our intention more clear. But I actually worry about all of our sort of texted communication. My older son, his college entrance essay was about phone phobia. He has phone phobia. Both my sons have phone phobia. They are insanely nervous about speaking to someone on the phone. They will do anything to avoid it.
You mean speaking live?
Speaking live, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see any trending in younger people to being worse and worse at interpersonal live spoken communication because we're doing so much of the texting and the typing and that I just worry that that having a person-to-person live in-space conversation is just going to get harder and harder.
I think there's absolutely no question that that's happening, and amongst especially amongst young people or anybody who spends a lot of time texting. And I had a very affecting communication from somebody I was speaking to an audience about these issues, and afterwards I got a text, of course, from a person in the audience who said, I've got social phobia of some sort, just
Right.
to make it simple. And for me, being able to control what I say, and when I send the communication, and then being able to muse over and think about the response, whatever response I may get, and then respond to that. For me, that element of control is very reassuring and very helpful, not to provoke that kind of phobia. So,
Mm.
it, at one extreme, it's a more reassuring and comforting setting for some people, and I think that will only increase. That is, people who like that kind of control and that uncertainty, or to reduce that kind of uncertainty, will only increase the more time we spend in that space, because you get unused to. You have to practice being face to face.
Wow.
It's a whole set of powerful unconscious cues that can overwhelm you if you haven't done it for a while.
Yeah.
You know, what's his first name, Maniscalco? I'm blanking.
Sebastian.
Sebastian Maniscalco did the whole thing about when we were growing up, the phone rang, people ran to get it. Oh my God, it's Aunt Mary, it's Grandma. Now the phone rings, and I even do this. The phone rings and I go, who the hell is calling? It's like an assault. Producer Laurie, she goes into fits of rage if you call her. I put a clock on the timer because it's just she hates the phone.
Yeah.
And there's a certain generation, the generation now, I guess below 30. Oh my God, it's worse than death. Calling and trying what? My son, what? I mean, he'd rather just text me, just let me know. I said it's a little complicated, and I want to kind of give you some context there. Yeah, what? Well, it's hit and run communication now, and you're smiling, doctor, because that's where we're at, and more people hate the phone. Even coming to the house, somebody comes to your door now. Who the hell comes unannounced at the door? You used to be, oh my God, we got visitors.
Oh, the Wells Fargo window.
Oh my God, anybody coming was like, look, we got a visitor now. Get the gun. Get in,
Yeah,
turn
right.
off the lights, get on the
Trespasser.
floor,
Yeah,
pull the
right.
shades. What has happened to society that way? You're saying we got to practice face to face. People don't want to be face to face. It seems like it's going the other way pretty rapidly, right?
Yeah, it's a negativity bias that comes about, as we mentioned earlier, from virtual communications, because we're not getting clear read on the intent. So we got out of practice and we assume the worst, and then we start to sour on all our human relations.
This sounds pretty dire to me. I almost feel like we should be having some sort of early education classes in real communication. Again, I just worry that our ability to communicate with each other is some sort of existentially in jeopardy at this point. If we're really just reduced to 16-word texts and an emoji, I just really worry about what is it to be a human being. Part of the joy.
Fortunately, we learn to communicate at in the cradle from our mothers and fathers,
Yeah.
and hopefully, as long as there's love between parent and child, and there's all that baby talk and cooing and the interactions that go on, that we'll get the basics. And we'll get a little nervous when we turn teenager and start using the phone and forget how to talk to humans, but we can relearn if we've got that base there. So moms, dads, keep loving your kids, and I think we'll be okay.
Can I just assume that when my grown or teenage children answer me in a monosyllabic grunt, that what they're saying is, I don't want to talk to you? Is that a true assessment? Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, sure.
But well, you know what? Again, everybody.
See, that's what I go to. They don't want to talk to me. It can be that they're having a tough time with something and they don't know how to express it. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
You know what I
it could
found that
be,
was really strange?
But I tend to go, oh, F you if you're not going to talk to me. I'm your father, damn it.
My wife would always tell me, leave him alone. Don't talk to him right now. And Laura, you're better at this from a mom perspective. Don't talk to them right now. Don't confront stuff. They'll talk when they're ready to talk. And the car was magic because you're not looking at each other. When you're driving your kids somewhere, usually stuff comes up in the car. And I think it's because you're not making eye contact. And there's something safe about that. You're going somewhere, something else happening. I wonder, doctor, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It's a body language thing, and I recommend people to do this as speakers if they get a lot of aggressive questioning from somebody, for example. The thing to do is to move toward them, which is counterintuitive, and you don't feel like doing it. You want to get away, but you move toward them, and then you align themselves so you're facing in the same direction. So what happens when two human beings are facing in the same direction is they feel like already they're primed to agree on things.
Wow.
So it's much better to sit next to your teenager than it is to sit across from them. So you want to sit down at the table, make eye contact with them. To them, that feels aggressive and like you're going to give them 20 questions. If you sit next to them, then now we're suddenly aligned. We're in agreement before we even open our mouths.
I just
So
anecdotally, Peter and I have been
goes better.
sitting next to each other for 40 episodes. I've never
It's a
agreed
big
with him
mistake,
once.
yeah.
I've never once.
Well, you know
I
what
don't
you just
feel
told me,
aligned.
Doc? My son and I are fighting. All we have to do is drive to Cleveland, and we can figure this out. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. But I actually have one question before you go. This is probably impossible, but is there, let's just keep it to our world of texting. And I know you said emojis are a great idea. Is there a simple thing that we could adopt that would make what we really intend more clear? Is it more language, less language? Is it just the emoji? Is there sort of a simple rule?
What we're looking for, there is. What we're looking for is emotion. I want to know what your intent toward me is. Is it positive? Is it negative at the simplest level? Is it said in a loving tone? I want to know what the tone of voice is. Mm-hmm. And so we started with the example of good job. You can say that with a warm, friendly, good job, or you can say it with an eye roll and mean it sarcastically. So if you're not using emojis, then put into the text some positive, loving word that conveys what your intent is.
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming it is that.
Because I have kids that even misinterpret emoji. I give the thumb up emoji and they go, "Oh,
Screw
yeah,
you."
that's like, yeah."
So what do I do? Jason, miss you. No, really. I mean, our whole show is based on the premise that you BS'd with your first answer that you gave me.
Right.
So we go right to no, really.
Yeah, right.
So it's that, I guess the no, really part of this is the subtext of explaining what I just meant.
Okay.
And almost joking with Laurie when I said, hey, looking forward to seeing you, said with with empathy and understanding and caring.
Right.
And then you figure now you're being sarcastic.
All right.
Well, thank you.
The whole world has become marriage therapy. I get it. Okay.
Doctor, thank you for coming on.
Dr. Morgan, thank you.
By the
Really.
way,
Thank you so much.
the best place to find you, Public Words, publicwords.com. What's your site? The best site for people to look up.
Publicwords.com.
Yeah. And also the podcast.
And the podcast is what?
One question.
Is just one question.
Just one
JOQ,
question.
as we call it, because
I think that's
we're in
brilliant.
emoji land,
Fantastic.
and text land too.
No, it's
Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you so
I'm
much
gonna
for coming on.
I'm going to go listen.
So Jay, I know I didn't say anything while we were on with the doctor, but body language. I mean, a big part of this is body language, and I think I know how you feel about. Why don't you tell everybody what's your sense of body language?
Not a thing. It's not a thing. And what makes me crazy, I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit to it, but in general, what always made me crazy is you'd see like a presidential debate, and then you'd go to the CNN panel, and two people were the body language experts. And when he said this, he was insecure, and when she said that, she was attracted to him. And you go, what? Body language. All right, I'm gonna do something right now. You tell me what it means.
Okay. You got a little bit of gas.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might as well be that.
Give me another one.
Another one?
Got even more. It's all
Everything with you is gas related.
No,
Right?
but you're right. What's funny is I was on radio for how many years? And I was always pitched after every debate, body language expert, and I never had one on. I'll tell you why. He was hunched over and looked severe. He ate chili for lunch, and it's kicking back. He just realized his taxes. His accountant called right before the thing. You don't know what's going on.
And the other thing is, I honestly, when I say it's not a thing, I'm kind of joking. I understand there is real research behind this information, but in a non-joking way.
Again, yeah. And again.
If I sit next to a dour teenager and I sit side by side with him in a restaurant booth, I know I'm now more uncomfortable because I got this dour energy sitting right off my right shoulder. And I've never had a substantive conversation except in a car.
Car does work.
I've never had a substantive conversation with somebody sitting next to me facing the same direction. I've never done it.
Look at this podcast. Where are we facing?
Well,
and it's the most substantive thing you do. Look at it. We're
but
looking at the same. We're sharing it.
I get paid for this. Actually, I haven't gotten paid 1 red cent for this yet. When does the money kick in?
Talk to Laura.
Yeah, I see your body language right now. Is right. Your body language suddenly changed. I'll tell you the other thing, the emoji thing. He's not wrong, but again, even by his own admission, there's so many of them. We don't know what they mean. Now, the laughing guy with the tears, what
does that mean? Anybody in the other room know? Laurie doesn't know. Laurie, anybody in that room, though? Come on, everybody in there is like 30-ish.
What could it be? Is it a gang sign? What could it be? Is it like the teardrop sign in a prison?
Google Himes looking it up right now. When we go to him,
and are we doing hieroglyphics now? Are we going back to that? We're just going to communicate with each other like pictures on the wall. That's the only safe thing.
Here's
an
one
emoji?
that Laurie does to me that I hate more than LOL. Hi, Hal. I decided to go in the hospital. I'm going to give you the kidney. They say the recovery, because if I have some other stuff wrong with me, maybe a tough recovery of 3 or 4 weeks. But it's not going to deter me. I decided I'm going to donate my kidney to you, and you get liked. No, you don't even get a thumb up. You get liked. Like the guy, you didn't even have enough of a emotion. I'm giving you a friggin' kidney. Liked. You can't. You know thumbs. You can't type something back. My God, that makes me crazy. Hal, I'm in a cave. Come get me. Okay, thumbs up.
We don't understand it, and the abbreviations don't help.
Oh, I got it. Okay,
by the way, you mentioned LOL. I hate when somebody types to me LOL because I go, liar. Liar. You're not sitting there laughing out loud, which is what that means.
That is
LOL,
true.
laughing out loud.
You know how I know that's true?
You are not. You might have gone, oh, that's clever.
You know how I know that's true? You're supposedly one of the comedy geniuses of all time. I never laugh. I have never laughed out loud.
I know, and every time you write LOL, I go, no, sir.
He's lying.
I send you an emoji, which is a bull and the poo. The bull
and
poo.
A smiling, and you like sending the steaming pile of duty.
I've never sent.
All right, so here we go. I got some abbreviations if you want to. Okay.
Sure, and I'll know.
Laurie, can I curse and we'll bleep it? Yes, okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, GOAT, go.
That greatest of all time.
Okay, all right. TIL?
TIL.
This is part of my name, but go ahead.
Tilden?
No.
Oh.
Today I learned.
Today I learned?
Today I learned.
Oh, geez, no.
All right, here we go. IDGAF. Do you know what IDGAF is?
I don't jump.
You're close. You're close.
Fig.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't, okay, yeah.
Yep. POS. What is, if your teen sends you POS, what does POS mean?
POS, point of service. Possibly out swimming. I have no idea.
Parent over shoulder.
Parent over shoulder.
What's QQ mean? Somebody sends you QQ.
QQ, quicker.
Crying. It's often used sarcastically, like in other words, you made me cry, but sarcastically crying. In other words, you hurt my feelings, not, crying. Ha.
How does QQ convey that?
I'm just telling you, I didn't write these. WTPA.
WTPA. What the possible...
Where's the party at?
Okay.
WYCM.
Where's the YMCA?
Will you call me?
Will you call me?
Now, if your teen has these going, GYPO. GYPO.
Grandma.
Get your pants off. Get your pants off. Get your pants off. NIFOC.
Now I'm worried.
Yeah, you should be.
No, I fulfilled that.
The organizational contract. Naked in front of computer.
Oh, you're into a whole different.
Tell me what these are. DTDM. TDTM. TDTM.
Touching down there now.
Talk dirty to me.
Uh-huh.
HIFW. Laurie's going to Laurie was all in until...
Have I, H-I...
How I feel when.
How I feel when?
How I feel when you do this, usually paired with a GIF or a...
Okay, the first time somebody typed HIFW, did the other person go, the hell am I looking at? What is that? Someone in...
They know. SSDD.
That's a sexually transmitted disease.
Same stuff, different day. This is my favorite, because if you took the time to send this, TLDR.
Too late.
Too long, didn't read. Really, you mother humping, really?
Well, that's like never saw it, not a fan.
Well, that's IDC. I don't care.
Right.
So anyway, a little bit of an education there to help you.
Everybody
Amazing,
gets
right?
it wrong. That's what
Well,
proprioception.
that's everybody.
I'm going to tell you, you can't say anything right. You can't.
That's EBGW, by the way.
I'm going to give you a story, but I'm not going to name the names. This is how we don't. You can't say anything.
What does it involve? Who's involved?
Okay, this is a story. I only know it because my wife's family was related to a fairly famous screenwriter back in the day, about 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And this screenwriter is walking down the street with a young but already quite famous movie actor.
Who's involved? So this is about two actors.
Another very famous actor meets them on the street, and they're chatting. It seems to be very, collegial. And the actor that came up says to the first actor, hey, I just passed on a project. It wasn't right for me. But you'd be great. You should check it out. And walks away. And the first actor goes, did you hear that, son of a bitch? I'm supposed to pick up his detritus. He's giving me his crumbs. And I'm going, that seemed like a lovely gesture. The guy said, it's not right for me. You would be great.
But there's so many layers there.
And the guy was apoplectic.
Can I guess the two actors? Rob Schneider and Dolph Lundgren.
No.
Yeah, not? Okay.
Not
Steven Seagal and Larry the Cable Guy.
Close.
Okay. So, but what that implies, I know you would go, oh, they're all priced. If they didn't take it because I'm getting his.
No, I actually think, I could be wrong, but if it's not right for, who would it be? If Jack Black came up to me and said, it's not right for me, but it might be right for you, I'd go, that's interesting, because I'm Jack is younger than I am, and he has a different kind of sense of humor, but we are both kind of the same size in every proportion and are known for doing big animated characters. What could be wrong for him but right for me? But if George Clooney came up to me and said, I just passed on something that's wrong for me, but I think it'd be great for you,
it's a crap
I
roll.
might go, well, there you go. I mean,
Clooney would go, I'm crazy. Give this to Jason Alexander. So,
which happens all the time. George passes and they come right to me.
And there you go. By the way, I think I got it here somewhere, the first text ever sent. Do you know what it is?
First text ever sent?
First text ever sent, I think.
Was it Ta-ta for now? TTFN?
No,
I know that one. Why didn't you ask me that one?
Ta-ta for now. Who uses that? The first text was I have it somewhere. It's Merry Christmas, I think.
Merry Christmas was the first text?
And do you ever wonder why the text was 160 characters?
Well, that's a tweet. That's not a text.
Because they yes, you're right. Text had a limit of 160 characters initially.
You can text as long as you want.
Now, initially, you know what?
Who was stopping?
Why did I?
Who was? Wait. If I was
how about the subtext?
What would happen when I got to character 141? It would just stop. It wouldn't do anything.
It only had 160 when it was launched.
But that's Twitter.
No, it's also texting.
What would happen?
I get to
161.
Laurie, please
just
do me a
stop.
favor. Run in here with a pen and epinephrine pen. Go to Guggenheim. Let's go to Guggenheim.
All right.
This is when he pushes my patience.
Help me.
I was in the middle of Googling that. I was trying to fact check it.
You know what? Don't bother, because that's not a thing. He's thinking of Twitter.
You know what? GNOC, get naked on camera. Shut up.
Actually, he's not even thinking of Twitter. He's thinking of X.
Yeah, exactly.
LMAN, leave me alone now.
So, Jason, I have a correction. This is the second time I've had to correct you on this one.
Oh, boy,
Okay.
I love this.
The saber-toothed cat and Homo sapiens were on the Earth at the same time.
They weren't at the La Brea Tar Pits at the same time. That's all I know.
They were not at the La Brea Tar.
You know what,
That's
Jason,
all I can tell you.
having him
Because
as
at the
my
La Brea
partner-
Tar Pits, they go out of their way to say Homo sapien.
This
not
is a
here.
man, by the way, you can't correct, because he'll go, but they weren't in the same place at the same time. He always comes up with the next, but they
By the
didn't
way,
know.
how did they know? Wait, there couldn't have been a guy in Bayonne, New Jersey, while there was no saber-toothed tiger. I believe you. I have nothing on this, David.
They have this is relatively new science that was discovered not too far along. So perhaps they've changed their talking points.
They've changed the talking point.
Oh, that's what it is.
When I was in school, we were taught that the
understand.
saber-toothed tiger did not exist with Homo sapien. Apparently, they found 3 guys next to a saber-toothed tiger.
Oh my gosh, you can't
They may have interacted. It's probably in Europe, but they may have interacted. But that's a little
All
bit
right.
more.
All right, I stand correct.
Now, if you are being confused by a lot of the things that Peter was throwing at you, let's say, what does ROFL mean?
That's one that comes around a lot.
Right on,
Yeah.
you friggin' loser.
I used
Rolling on the floor
the-
laughing. Right.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So if that is too much for you to type, it has an emoji to replace it. So if those are too tough, they're now
just go
making
with the
them
picture.
emojis. So it's an emoji. It's the happy face with smile that is twisted a little bit to the side with tears coming out, and there's a lot of squinting going on.
That's what the teenager couldn't tell his father. That's what that means.
No, that's instead of rolling on the floor laughter, you will replace that with the emoji with
Right,
the
but
squirting
the
eyes.
doctor said that the smiling with the squirting eyes. His teenager said, "You don't even know what that means anymore, Dad." And it was like, it's a thing
different
that you
one.
should never use.
Well, they have a lot of them now. There's face with tears of joy, which is very similar to rolling on the floor laughing.
Oh,
You
boy.
have loudly crying face, which is, whatever. There are tears of joy. There are tears of sadness. So
You know what? I
can
think
tell you-
let's do final. You know what my final.
exhausted.
I'll head
I'm
off the-
exhausted.
Can I-
Wait,
you're
where's the-
aging yourselves. You come on, you got it. You could do it. You could do it.
I don't want to do it. You know something? Here's my final
You
thought
just
right
put
now.
an emoji there. And
You know what my final thought is as I get older? Laurie's going to love this. I'm not calling anybody. I'm not reaching out to anybody. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm going to sit in my bedroom in my underpants watching shows all day long because now they stream. I'm just going to stream till I die. I'm
And
just
you know
not
what?
reaching out.
I'm going to sit right beside you, and we'll agree.
Thank
What
you.
do you think of that?
Look in the same
We'll sit
direction.
in the same underwear, looking in the same direction.
NRO, not
we'll
reaching
be-
out, not reaching out, or naked reaching out. So good night. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done. Laurie, I'm never calling
Folks,
you again.
write to us. Let us
David,
know what
look,
you thought
thumbs
of
up.
this episode
2 thumbs up.
with an emoji.
Look what she did. Two thumbs up.
You know what that means?
David, 2 thumbs up. Yeah, up your up. I know from Laurie what
Double up yours.
2 thumbs up. Even that is misread as exactly what it means. And I thank you for listening to
Thank
another
you, David. Thank you, Lori.
episode of Really? No, really. 2 thumbs
What
up.
did you
Jay.
mean by that?
2
What did
thumbs
you
up.
mean by that?
As another episode of Really No Really comes to a close, let's thank our guest, Dr. Nick Morgan. You can follow Dr. Morgan online at publicwords.com. His podcast is called Just One Question, and you can follow him on Instagram, X, and Facebook, where he is Dr. Nick Morgan. Really No Really is a production of iHeartRadio and Blase Entertainment.